talk about UCLA. Bet you didn't think we were going to talk about UCLA today. Here it is. Here's also, I get the buys come at a convenient time in terms of travel schedule. So this is like where the regionality of certain conferences comes into play. Now, I know Hawaii is not a conference team, but you have to fly to Hawaii and then you have to fly to New Jersey to play Rutgers in the same season. I get it. It's like 7 weeks apart, but in the same season, you are flying to Hawaii and you are flying to Rutgers. That is crazy. That is crazy, man. And you got to go fly to LSU, right? Because that's not neutral site, right? That's at LSU, I believe.
It's in Baton Rouge. Yep.
So that, and you have to fly to Penn State. Uh, this is wild. The travel dynamics of UCLA, this schedule is absolutely nutty, right? Let alone they play some really talented teams out of conference. They play LSU and they play Fresno State. Fresno State's it's a home game. A G5 team. Uh, I don't know the status of Jeff Tedford. I hope he's doing all right. I don't know if he'll be coaching there next year. Uh, Maybe someone knows more than I do, or have been checking headlines, or I don't know. But LSU, Fresno State out of conference, it's kind of tough. Other than that, in conference, Washington, it's pretty tough. Penn State, of course, we already talked about them having to go to Penn State, to Nebraska, like Oregon. Obviously, I haven't even brought up yet. So I'd say the headliners on this schedule are LSU, Oregon, Penn State, Washington, right? Which is a pretty similar schedule to kind of like what Ohio State is doing, but instead of Ohio State's playing, or sorry, Michigan's playing Ohio State instead of Penn State, basically. And then I guess flip Texas for LSU in their schedule. So pretty comparable schedules, if you ask me. It just is a more brutal travel schedule for UCLA. That's the reason why I think that this UCLA schedule is very brutal. Like that'd be my top reason. What about you?
Yeah, the dynamics of weeks 4 through 8, and with all due respect to Indiana, right? But 4 through 8 is brutal,
Yeah.
right? You go at LSU, like you mentioned, and then you come home for Oregon. Great. You're probably going 0-2 in those games, and you're probably at least you're probably over 2 touchdown dogs in both those games. Then you pick up on the road at what might be a Happy Valley whiteout against Penn State. You never know. Regardless, though, that's a gauntlet. You come home. Oh, you welcome Minnesota. Nope. That's the PJ Fleck revenge game. Obviously, Minnesota's going to be jacked up for that. UCLA almost stole their head coach. And for Deshaun Foster, who got the job, right? This a brutal. And then you got to pick up your stuff and travel across the country to Rutgers. I mean, it does not get easy for UCLA, who's breaking a new head coach, who's losing some guys to the draft, who's losing the guys to the transfer portal, and like to break in a lot of these new faces, and you lose Dante Moore and all this good stuff. Like it is not easy. And then you turn around and you got to play some physical football teams at Nebraska, right, in October. You got Iowa, and then you got at Washington, who's obviously no slouch, new team, good coach though, and obviously you finish off with USC and Fresno State in the state of California. But still, though, their overall total is 5.5, 5.5 for UCLA. That means Vegas thinks they're not going to make a bowl game, and I'm right there with them. I mean, I know it's early and that stuff. I'm not going to bet it yet, but I'm telling you, I'm looking at this right now, and like looking up 5 wins means you have to string together a lot of wins that, yes, on the surface it looks easy and like, oh, okay, you can probably beat Minnesota, you can probably beat Rutgers, you could probably beat Iowa or Nebraska, and maybe even USC. But it's just the accumulation and the dynamics of the schedule is what makes it so tough. And you also think about breaking in new stuff and the conference. It is a gauntlet for USC. I mean, to me, this
UCLA.
is one of the I'm sorry, UCLA. This is one of the tougher schedules in college football, even within this list. To me, they're them
Dynamic wise.
dynamic wise. Yes, yes.
I mean, it's still a tough schedule. Like you're playing good teams, right? It's a Big Ten schedule, right? It's going to be brutal. So some of these games are going to be cold. Traveling. Actually,
No,
I
they,
guess
they got lucky there
Nebraska, they
in
got lucky
November.
there.
That
Yeah,
they have
because
not, Nebraska's is November like 1st or whatever it is, November 3rd.
so that
It's
could be
early
cold.
November, but
But
it's
like,
not late November going to Minnesota or Iowa or even Rutgers or
or
Penn State
Wisconsin.
or even Washington, right? But you stay in California for those last 2 weekends of
Yeah,
November.
yeah. Still brutal schedule. UCLA fans, let us know how you feel about this. Is anyone going to be traveling to any of these road games? UCLA fans. I know it's somewhat of a national brand there. But are you traveling from California to any of these games? I would love to know. I'd be
I mean,
fascinated.
Baton Rouge would be a fun place to go. I think Rutgers would be
Yeah,
fascinating.
yeah. If you're from the
Nebraska,
West,
Lincoln, it's tough to get to that place, but it's also would be fun as well. Let me ask you this, Matthew. Like, how many of these games are they favored in? Right? Like they gotta get to 5.5 wins. LSU, Oregon, Penn State. I don't think they're favored against Rutgers, by the way, on the road Rutgers.
I don't think
Rutgers
they're
is
favored against
8.
Nebraska either.
No. And at
I think they could
Washington,
be. I think they'll be favored against Rutgers. Maybe. I haven't looked at
Rutgers
Rutgers.
is 8th returning production. 8th returning production. We love
Yeah,
that.
but
And they get
I mean
8th in
they're
Calic Manis.
yeah, that is some production that they're returning there. But I don't know, man. I guess you're right. I guess I could see them being favored in three of these games for
Or at
sure.
least within a field goal. And that's the thing is you're gonna have all these toss-up games. Minnesota, Rutgers. I throw Iowa at home in there, even Nebraska or at Washington, USC. Like those are gonna be toss-up games where you're gonna have to win those football games in close games. And Deshaun Foster is gonna have to learn how to win close football games right away. And listen, it's tough. It is. It's going to be tough sledding there for you. And you're 95th in returning production from a year ago. A team that was supposed to be one of your best teams in a long time, right? Building up to that with Chip Kelly, kind of underperformed, and then you lose a lot of those guys anyways. So that doesn't get easy.